Hello, everyone. Welcome to In the Cordon, the place where every cricketer wants to be. I'm your host, Callum and thank you so much for joining us for another episode. We thought we would take the opportunity to review the T20 series between India and England. It was a rare 5-game series, which India ended up being victorious 4-1. And there were a lot of things to talk about for both teams. And joining me to discuss all the major talking points from the series is Kartik. Kartik, how are you, mate? Good to see you again.
Yeah, likewise, man. Thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, mate. Yeah, it was a very jam-packed series. India used a lot of players throughout the series, which just highlights the amount of depth that they have in T20 cricket, and all these players getting exposure, on the big stages through the IPL and the high caliber tournament that is. But also leaves a few question marks about England and how they're approaching things. This is a regenerative, I suppose, Indian T20 side after they won the World Cup in the Caribbean with no Kohli, no Sharma, Surya Kumar Yadav taking over the captaincy. And we've just seen this next wave of players coming through. Let's start with the most recent game. And what an exciting innings that was from Abhisek Sharma, who's made a name for himself in the last 12 months. Firstly, for Hyderabad, opening with Travis Head and the explosive starts that they were able to get off to in the power play. But it's great to see him doing it at international level. So what did you make of Abhishek's performance in the final game?
Yeah, incredible. The kind of mindset that with which he worked in, and he gives a lot of credit to Travis Head for that. That the kind of attack from ball one, and that was something which was visible all throughout. So extraordinary performance. Secondly, with the kind of hard work he has done in the past, that has paid off. Like if you hear from any of the younger uh, players who are in the side or any players who's seen him in the past, they say you all you see is him scoring 100. What we see is the hard work. He's very hardworking, put in a lot of efforts in the gym, in the trainings, extra training, like with the physical workouts and so on. So yeah, all that has been is playing around.
Yeah, and it just shows that Sanju Samson hasn't had the best series, and Sanju Samson is a very zero or hero type of operator. He's either a low scorer, he's absolutely batting the house down. So some inconsistencies overall with the top order partnerships for India, but when they've got so much talent in that side, if one person doesn't stand up, the ones coming down the order will. It was probably one of the most important things I think for India in this particular series was the return of Mohammad Shami, who has been injured for quite some time with an ankle injury, and there's hopes that he's obviously going to be able to get up for the Champions Trophy, which is starting a little bit later in the month. Kartik, how important is the return of Mohammad Shami? Even though it is T20 cricket, what sort of flow-on effect could this have for the Champions Trophy, which is getting started within the next week and a half, basically?
Yeah, I think, and that's one of the reason why he was given the chance in this series, so that he get familiarized with the international arena again. And is coming back after a big injury. So again, he gets some match game practice as well. He's done a bit in the domestic cricket, but at the international stage, selectors probably wanted to have a look how he's shaping up and how he's familiarizing with the pressure. But he's done well. He wasn't the first choice. The first choice was Arshdeep and the spinners because that's how the tracks work. But in ODI cricket, Shami with the white ball, I think he'll be lethal.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Mohammad Shami was sorely missed for India when they came out to Australia for the Border Gavaskar Trophy, and um, fantastic seam position. Moves the ball away from the right hander, and has historically bowled extremely well in the power play for whatever franchise he's played for in IPL. But when he has gone on to play at international level as well, the Indian spinners, there's so much so many of them in India. It's amazing. Like within this series, we had Chakravarthy, who has not historically performed for India in T20 international cricket, but has an incredible IPL record. It was great to see him get some wickets and some reward for effort. You talk about Axar Patel, who has played so much cricket for India over the last 10 years, been a real staple for the Delhi Capitals in IPL, and Ravi Bishnoi, who plays for the Lucknow Super Giants. He is a very consistent performer for this Indian international T20 team, and I'd love to see him get some more opportunities, particularly in the ODI format. But yeah, I thought he was superb. What did you make of the Indian spinners in this particular series, and how dangerous can particularly Chakravarthy be going forward?
Yeah, yeah. So spot on Chakravarthy. He's someone who hasn't come from the traditional setup of domestic cricket. He's been in and out. Injuries was that he studied engineering, if I'm not wrong. So you and he came into IPL very late in his career, like in the age as well. So again, he's not a traditional cricketer, and the kind of learnings that he has done is learned a lot from Sunil Narayan, and that's visible in the sort of bowling he's doing. He was a net bowler to start with, with the KKR, and he was unplayable. Like England players had no clue, how to face him, and he was very consistent throughout the series. He took a five in a T20, which is big, probably equivalent to scoring a double hundred. So he was definitely quite good and the bowler of the tournament for me. And that's the only reason why they're giving him a chance in the ODIs as well, in case he can be that weapon to take him along in the Champions Trophy on that UAE wickets. So he was definitely good. Ravi Bishnoi, is he the best leg spinner in India? We got Chahal as well. Are they using Chahal? No. So that sort of debate, which will always stay around. But yeah, Bishnoi is a good player, but not better than Chahal. So I still believe Chahal should be the number one leg spinner for India. Akshar Patel, yes, he did what he's good at, being very consistent, maybe among not the wickets, but he's very economical. Like he knows how to restrict the batsman, and that's something he's always done it. He's good with the bat as well, and that's something he showed in a couple of games here and in the final of the T20 World Cup. So great all-rounder. People don't rate him high as an all-rounder, but he can definitely pitch in wherever you throw him at. So yeah, good trio.
I still can't believe that Chahal does not play any international cricket pretty much anymore. Leading wicket taker in IPL, done it for RCB and at the Chimaswami in particular, which is such a small ground,
Mm.
essentially like 60-meter boundaries all round. So, and he's been able to succeed, pretty much at every IPL franchise that he's gone to. Got the 18 crore price tag. Going to Punjab to play under Ricky Ponting, which I think I listened to Ricky Ponting talk about him on the Howie Games podcast. So that's a good interview if you want to go and listen to that. But the way that he was talking about Chahal was very complimentary, and I still don't understand why he's not playing for India. And I would have loved to have seen him have a go at Test cricket
Mm.
at some point. But yeah, for whatever reason, it just hasn't really lined up. And yeah, I suppose one of the other shining lights for India has been Tilak Varma, and his performances in that South African T20 series were really good. Peeled off 200s, got a couple of 50s in this series as well. He's someone that's really sort of accelerated his growth and development over the last 12 months. And Mumbai really wanted to keep him in the so he didn't go back into the mega auction pool, I suppose. Still at a hefty price tag of 11 crore, but he's certainly showing his worth, and I think he's going to be a great force in the IPL in 2025. What are your thoughts on Tilak Verma?
Yeah, 100%. So his first year in the IPL with the Mumbai Indians, he was rated quite high. Sachin Tendulkar himself said, he's one of the players to watch out for. He even went to his house, met his parents, like for a dinner. So, for a junior, like an 18-year-old kid, if Sachin Tendulkar is coming to your house to have dinner with your parents, it means something. So he's that kind of a player. So he's very rated highly by the legends. So definitely he's showing his worth now. The character that he's got is quite good. Like in terms of the temperament that he's got, he's not very expressive in many ways, but he's very focused on the game, and that's something which is visible in the kind of performances as well. So very consistent, and yeah, always puts his hand up in whichever position they offer to him.
Yeah, I think he's growing with the amount of responsibility that he's getting in this international lineup. He's been batting at number four mostly, and the fact that he's been able to peel off multiple centuries early days of his international career is a really good sign for India going forward. Let's talk about the old Australian enemy, which is England. And unfortunately, there wasn't a great deal of highlights, but there are certainly a number of talking points from the English camp. I thought Phil Salt was pretty good throughout this series. The way that he's been able to, dominate T20 cricket over the last probably 2 years in particular has really skyrocketed. I remember when he used to play for the Adelaide Strikers and he'd either be once again hero or zero. But now he's finding that consistency in his game. He had a really good year for Kolkata in the IPL last year. He knows how to play in these conditions. As you said when we were talking off air, he's gone for a 12 crore sort of price tag. And I was reading a stat that the RCB like sort of selection panel were doing when they were trying to work out who was going to open with Kohli, and they said Salt hits 16 off an over once in every 4 overs that he faces. So that's a really good stat for IPL, and he's had the opportunity to captain England. I thought it was really strange that Salt had the gloves instead of Butler. I know Butler has been having a few injury issues, particularly with the calf. But yeah, I thought that was a particularly strange choice considering Butler was your captain, and I think he would get first priority whether he would want to keep the gloves. And I think Phil Salt's a pretty good, fielder, on the boundary as well. So, what did you make of Salt and Butler not keeping?
Salt again, I think if you take away the last innings, uh, the first 4 games he wasn't among the runs. He scored, I think, some 20, 30 runs on those 4 games, which wasn't that great. The last innings, yes, he did pick up uh, his potential, but again, that sort of innings, what Abhishek Sharma had played, and the kind of total that was there on the board, he definitely had to give them a big start. So which did work out, and Butler not keeping, it's not always easy to keep spinners in India. The ball stays low, and you know it's a difficult task. So if you're carrying an injury or coming back from a big injury, it's not always easy. So maybe Salt was given the preference there. They might have had this discussion, and definitely would have been a mutual agreement there. Salt, I was lucky enough to work with him in Adelaide. In the Adelaide, he was playing for the Adelaide Uni Cricket Club, and still remember the grand finals we were playing T3 Gully, got out for zero. So that sort of personal memory I have of Phil Salt. But yeah, the kind of year that he has had, last year or so, he's been extraordinary. No, so I wouldn't really say he did well in this series. If you ignore the last game, the first 4 crucial game didn't give England a good start. One more person who disappointed me was Livingston. Scored, I think, 70 runs in the 5 games. So again, not good, not good for a player of that potential.
Yeah, and Livingston's got, I think, the 10 crore price tag to go to RCB. So, RCB have invested a lot of resources into those two. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes for them. But one of the shining lights, I think, for England, I know he didn't necessarily take the wickets and set the world on fire, but that was the return of Jofra Archer. And as we were talking about, he was bowling real quick, like over 150 kilometers per hour. We know the talent that he has. He's just struggled with injuries so much over the last, sort of 5 years in particular. Hasn't played a test match, I think, since 2020. Played some white ball games for England here and there, but a fit Jofra Archer, if they can take him to the Champions Trophy, that's going to be a big weapon for him and a strike weapon that they probably haven't had for quite some time.
Yeah, imagine Jeffrey Archer and Mark Wood opening the bowling for England. Heat, like both bowling over 150. So not easy for any batsman to play unless until you're playing on wickets like Mumbai, where it's easy. You close your eyes and hit the ball wherever you want to. So yeah, definitely quick, very fit. Didn't look like there was a break in his career, and he looked much stronger and fitter than before. So yeah, something to look forward. That Mark Wood and Jofra Archer bowling the uh, starting the bowling lineup for England in the Champions Trophy.
Yeah, I think one of the other shining lights for England as well was Bryden Cast, and he's had a great 12 months since he debuted for England in Test match cricket. He bowled really well in New Zealand, and he's just sort of building up in strides with every game that he's playing for England, and he's definitely getting a lot better. Handy with the bat as well, who not obviously going to get you big runs, but can, hit a few big blows later in the innings. So yeah, he was someone that was, it was great to see him. But there's so much reliance on this team with Adil Rashid, and I think they missed playing a second spinner at times. There was times where they went with, the main three bowlers that we've talked about, plus Jamie Overton, and then had a big reliance on Rashid. And this is where the retirement of Moeen Ali, I suppose, has really sort of had an impact. So, yeah, and like there's Livingston can bowl those spin overs, but he's not a frontline spinner. He's more your six bowling option if someone's getting particularly targeted. So do you think this is a concern for England going forward?
Yeah, that's the reason what I think England lost because, on fast bowling, yes, England was superior if you compare it to India. On batting, like if you compare the experience of Butler, the kind of form Salt is in, Harry Brooks is in. So, the batting, England was quite batting heavy as well. But I think the only area where they lacked was the spinning department. Adil Rashid alone can't win you games. He needs some sort of backing. India was playing three spinners plus few part-timers here and there. So you definitely need some sort of backup and your bench strength there to support Adil Rashid. Otherwise, you're going to England, sorry, you're going to Pakistan as well, and you'll be playing some games in UAE. You need to have those spinners in your side.
Yeah, I suppose the last controversial point that we want to talk about is this concussion substitute. Now, Shivam Dube, who ended up getting man of the match for this performance, got hit on the penultimate ball of the innings on the head. And the strange thing was they decided, well, the match referee ticked off that Harshit Rana was the closest replacement, which I found to be quite strange that and like India technically didn't do anything wrong. They're like, this is the player that we want to replace Dube with, and the ICC match referee has clearly ticked this off. So I can understand why Joss Butler and the England camp were particularly unhappy, considering that Harshit Rana ended up going on to have a big impact in the game and he took 3 wickets. So do England have a right to be a bit peeved off, Kartik?
I think it's always the talk of the town when Indian cricket is involved, BCCI, ICC, match referees. So there's always be some controversy. There would be unhappy people. But yeah, the replacement was like, in case Mitchell Marsh gets injured or get a concussion blow, and you get in Josh Hazelwood to replace him. So it was that sort of a comparison in that game. So definitely we not matched like apple to apple comparison on that one, but maybe India didn't have a choice. They didn't have the extra all-rounder they were looking for. Hardik was already playing, and they wanted someone to bowl. So maybe that was proposed and was agreed upon by the match referee. We don't know what really happened, But it was funny in the next game when Butler walked in to the toss, he said, "My rather than saying my four extra plays are," he said, "My four impact plays are this, and this." So yeah, it's funny how he took it deep, like rather than just shrug it off and try to focus on the game. There was too much focus on someone like Harshit Rana. He's not a Bretley or like a Wasim Akram who would take five. Yes, he did something in that last over. He took 3 wickets, but yeah, he's still a youngster. Should have
Yeah,
taken it that way.
I think if, Harshit Rana came in and got pumped for, 40 off his 4 overs, I don't think there would have been such a fuss.
Yeah,
But I think because it was a relatively close game in the scheme of things, um, that's why that there's such controversy around it. And yeah, I think England do have a right to be annoyed because it wasn't a genuine like for like replacement. Like Shivam Dube, even though he's batting number 7 and occasionally bowls some overs, he's a batting all rounder. Whereas
yeah,
Harshit Rana is pretty much a out and out bowler. Sure, he can
yeah,
whack a few at the end of the innings, but it's not a genuine like for like replacement. So I would
yeah,
like to, and I think the thing that was also disappointing was if someone's ruled out with concussion, I don't think they should be playing a game of cricket 3 days later. Like, I
yeah,
think that was extremely, like, that, we need to take concussion seriously.
yeah,
You and I both grow up in Australia, and, we were exposed to playing footy as youngsters and contact sports. And, um, we've seen that the impacts that a concussion are having with some
yeah,
of our athletes here. So, yeah, I think it was a poor choice to play him in the next game. I think he ended up still doing all right. He ended up taking a couple of wickets with the ball, which was probably
yeah,
unexpected.
yeah,
But yeah, I think there needs to be some tighter parameters around the concussion substitutes going forward. And if you're ruled out with concussion, there needs to be a certain break that you need to have. That's what's implemented with AFL here. It's a 12-day protocol that you need to. And if you get concussed again, in community football, if you get concussed, it's 21 days on the sideline. So that's
yeah,
3 weeks
yeah,
before you're able to play again. So, yeah, I think there's some
yeah.
tightening up with those protocols. Will, one, protect the players from themselves, and yeah, the countries and the doctors will have that bit more duty of care, and sometimes the decisions will be taken out of their hands. But any particular thoughts, Kartik, on the concussion substitutes and maybe the tightening of the protocols?
I think when they exchange the sheets at the toss. At that time, there should be an extra column there for the replacements, and this is something it should be agreed upon. If there is something which the other captain or the other side is not happy with, maybe they can discuss that before the game. And this is something it should be agreed upon pre-game. Like if this player gets injured, I have these four out, and most likely this one particular person has the potential to replace. Let's say there's a batsman sitting up, he should be able to replace the top four, one of the top fours. Similarly, if there is an all-rounder or a fast bowler, he should be replaced the three fast bowlers who are playing. Then this is something which should be written and signed off by the board captains, and yeah, have those discussions rather than playing these games mid-game.
Yeah, it's a very rare circumstance that we see concussions in cricket. It's not
Yeah,
like AFL, as we've talked about, or
yeah,
rugby here in Australia. But for the rare time that the concussion substitute is used, it's caused a little bit of controversy, particularly in T20 cricket.
yeah.
In Test match cricket, because you're going to have probably a larger squad. Um, they probably have a bit more flexibility. The
Hmm.
time that it worked the best was when Steve Smith went out and Marnus Labuschagne came in at
Lavish,
Lords
yeah,
all those years ago. That was the perfect use of the concussion
yeah,
substitute. And, look at Marnus now. He took an
yeah,
opportunity and he's really cemented himself in the side. We can't get rid of him.
yeah.
So, yeah. Kartik, just wanted to say a big thank you for coming on the podcast. It's always great to get your insights on the Indian players with your background previously working in the IPL. So thanks for joining us, mate.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Thank you to all of you who are watching in the Cordon at home. Please make sure that you follow us on all of our social media pages and wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll see you on the next episode. Cheers.